Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? There we go. All right. I feel like I've got so many things I want to say, so I'm just going to try and train my brain to one thing at a time. Well, for the month of May, we are talking about friendships. And my topic is know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And you're welcome, because that song's now playing through your head, right? You're welcome. Now I'm going to tell you something that you already know, that we are made to have connection with other people. That intrinsic in us is that need for relationship with other people. And the Bible, of course, puts it this way. Two are better than one. If either of them falls down, one can help the other one up, and I know that has been the case for me. Friends that when I felt so down, I didn't know which way was up, they were there to help me find my way. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And obviously that's meant to be us, the other person, and God in the centre. And as I said, I'm telling you something you already know. I just wanted to make a side comment though, because I often think that we've actually lost something, particularly for guys, about the depth of friendship that can be had. And I've got a little bit of homework for you, because in the Bible, in 1 Samuel 18 and 20, it talks about David and Jonathan. David went on to become King David. Jonathan was Saul, King Saul's son, the rightful heir to the throne. And I want you to look at their friendship. It said they loved them as much as they loved themselves, and they made a covenant of friendship before God. It's a beautiful thing, and I think we've lost some of that depth. But I was heartened after the showdown. Anybody? Yeah, some are going like this, some are going like this. I won't tell you which one of those I am. But I was really heartened to see Rory Sloane celebrating with his friend, with Tex. Did you see Tex afterwards? Tex actually got teary talking about his best mate retiring early, as you probably know, through his eye injury. I love that. But what I also loved to see was Texie then whacked a great big smacker on Rory's cheek, and Rory turned around and did exactly the same thing, put a smacker back on Tex's cheek. And I thought, that's what we need to see more of. You know, a depth of friendship that is not the narrow version that we often have in Western society, Western culture, of this is allowed and anything else is weird. I thought, you go boys, you guys are best mates and there should be more of it. Don't you reckon? All right, that's your homework though, to have a little look at that. I want to tell you something else you already know. That is that online friendships don't really cut it. This is a study from actually here in South Australia from the Flinders University and Uni SA. And it says that there was a significant link between attending face-to-face events and feeling socially connected. When they looked at virtual events, there was really no impact on social connectedness or loneliness. The study found that virtual events can have some benefits, but they couldn't replicate the benefits of face-to-face. So we may feel like we've got lots of friends online, I'm doing okay, but we all know that, don't we? And this study is proving what we already know. You need to be face-to-face with other people and developing friendships, letting them into your life and you getting into theirs. Something you already know. So then I want to have a quick look at 2 sayings. And the first one is this: when friends become family. Yeah, if you see a few nods. Yeah, it's a modern day phrase. And I think it's true. There are friends that become like family. And I thought I'd tell you what that means for me. For me, it's some of these things. And it could be different for you. That's why I said this is what it means for me. It means for me that they get involved in your world, for the good and for the bad. I was watching this TV series the other day, and they said, if you're not there for the worst of me, you don't get to have the best of me. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a different way of saying the same thing. There for the good and the bad. With them, the problems, the burden of a problem is actually shared. And sometimes they can actually be part of the solution. They can have ideas or strategies that will help you solve that. But if not, even just having someone that you can tell your troubles to helps halve that burden. So for me, friends who become family are those people. They're there for you in crisis. I have a good friend who, when she heard that my dad had suddenly passed away in a vehicle accident, she had just started a new job. She went straight into her boss and said, look, I know I've just started, but I've got to get on a plane to Adelaide. And her boss very graciously allowed that to happen. She got straight on a plane as soon as she could to come and be by my side. She was there for me in crisis. And she even actually held Costa in a bubba sling all through the funeral so that I could just focus on what I needed to get done. And similarly, when her dad collapsed at home, he was found collapsed and taken to hospital, she rang me and said, my sister's interstate at the snow on holidays. I'm getting on a plane as soon as I can. Please, can you go to the hospital and just be with him so that he's not alone? So both of us were there for each other in crisis. And then a couple of years back when my mum passed away, a good friend of mine said, you know, I can jump in the car and come and be with you. And I said, no, it's okay, I'm fine. The next morning I woke up and I thought, actually, I don't think I'm fine. And I rang her back up and said, can I take you up on the offer? And she drove a ridiculous number of hours just to, again, be by my side and walk with me through that time. You know, friends that become family. Friends become family, distance doesn't matter. You just pick up where you left off. It doesn't feel like the distance has even been there. You just keep going. They also know the details of your life, the history. Sorry, is this popping? Do I need to do anything? All good? Just pull it out a bit. No, we're all good. Okay. They know the details of your life. So just recently, how about that? A friend of mine had to have neurosurgery, and it was sudden, unexpected, and I've got to tell you, but on the day, I was actually a mess. And I, text our mutual friend that completes our triangle and said, how are you going? She said, I'm a mess too. And I just thought, during that day and just afterwards, why was I such a mess about that? She came through fine, and the preceding one's fine. And I thought, it's partly because of this. She is so woven through the history of my life that I actually couldn't imagine a tomorrow without her. We come from the same country town, got saved in the same church. My brothers actually worked with her for a while, so they have that connection. And she was the friend that when I was so down, that she was there pulling me through, praying with me. And I just realised that the fabric of my life was so interwoven with her, it was unthinkable to think that she wasn't going to be there. So when friends become family. Second is this saying, friends for a reason, friends for a season, and friends for a lifetime. Have you heard that? Yeah, just going to have a drink. Sorry, throat's very dry. Hopefully you don't hear that going down. All right, so I'm just going to walk through some examples of this for me. Friends for a reason. So I went to birthing classes when I was pregnant with Costa. I didn't know he was going to be a Costa. I thought it was a boy or a girl. Because I'd had a C-section right with Ree. So I thought, better brush up on what I need to know for number 2. And in this birthing class, I met this girl. And she was near us. We started chatting with her, getting along with her. And about halfway through towards the end of the group, I felt like God say to me, give this girl your phone number. I don't know if you had these conversations with God, but in my head, I was like, no way. She's going to think I'm a stalker. I've just met the girl. Like, you can't be serious. Give the girl your phone number. I was like, all right, okay, Lord, I'm willing to embarrass myself to do what I feel you're asking me to do. So I said to her, look, there's been some hot weather and you said you don't have any air conditioning at your house. I've got air conditioning in my house, here's my number. Come and hang out sometime if you want to. Well, she did. She actually rang me and we spent some time together, and I went and visited her when her little boy was born, so we ended up having boys together. And then we did a lot of life together. We spent a lot of time together weekly. We did boys' birthday parties together. We did church playgroup together. And for me, the reason for that friendship was to introduce her more to God and to get her around other Christians. And I also know this because another friend of mine, after her little boy was born, met this same lady in the parenting room at Tea Tree Plaza. And I felt God say to her, invite her to the play group. God was after this girl to bring her close and just show her something different of who he was than she'd experienced before. So friends for a reason. Friends for a season. When I lived in Balaclava, I moved there and I didn't know anyone. I was new to town. And one of my fellow teachers came alongside and took me under her wing. And we would do all sorts of things together. She would take me to young adults Bible studies. We'd go out to country churches where her and her friends would be the musicians to support them. We'd go on adventures. We'd go on mini holidays. We even went to a wedding together. And it was really just such a special time for me. I really appreciated having her in my life. Well, she ended up finishing her time there and coming back to Adelaide, and I remained in Balaclava. And even when I moved back to Adelaide, we saw each other a little bit, but never to that same extent. And for me, it was a friends for a season. We just live far apart now. We don't have those same things in common. We don't work together. We don't go to the same church together. We don't have hobbies together. But I really appreciated what I consider a godsend, and I really feel like God has brought a lot of people in my life for a season, and I'm so grateful for them. Friends for life. Anyone got some friends for life? Statistically, if you have invested in a friendship over 7 years, they're going to be a friend for life. Sorry, I'm making a real pigsty over this. Is that better? Over there? There we go. Ash is telling me not to have another drink now. Listen. Did you hear it? No, good. The best one I think I've heard is when someone's, the communion person, and then they take it, then you get in the juice, and you're like, not really the time you're supposed to laugh, right? But I did. I'm further along in my notes, and I thought, right, good. So friends for life, 7 years. If you've invested in that friendship for 7 years, they're pretty much going to be your friend for life. My longest two friends, one is from the 80s, one is from the 90s, both from my church in Broken Hill. One of those friends I went recently to stay with her. I always try and catch up with her when I'm in Broken Hill, but this time I actually went and stayed with her. And one of the things I love is we went to her daughter's place for dinner. And I remember her daughter as a toddler, right? And now she has a baby of her own. And she was paying her mum out. She goes, "Oh, Mum, what, you're so happy tonight because you're best friends here. What's with all the joy?" And I love that. Her daughter, still characterised me as one of her mum's closest friends after all these years. Like I said, we met in the 80s. And my friend who I met in the 90s is the one that had neurosurgery. So, I've got a lot of friends. They want to ditch this. This is on. Turn off the pack. Take it off, I reckon. Husband help. Right, is that good now? Okay, good. Better. That's better. Now I'll just have to try and talk with one hand. That will be tricky. So the friends that you've invested long-term in become your lifelong friends. And then from that, I just wanted to have a little look at a diagram like this about relationship circles, the people that you're connected with. And the layers come about primarily because we actually have a limited capacity for interaction. It's not infinite. And you have to decide how you're going to spend that time. Bearing in mind, of course, that the strength of the relationship is directly correlated to how much time and effort we put into those relationships. So basically there's this number called the Dunbar number, and it's 150. So they're saying we can meaningfully maintain 150 relationships, some of them close to us and some of them further out. Obviously it's an average, some will be able to do more, some will be able to do less, but that's roughly it. So, and they're saying that 80% of our relationships 80% of our happiness comes from 20% of our relationships. So it's important who we have close to us. I think I've got another click. We have. All right. So I just wanted to walk through these circles. So the inner circle is really someone who has unlimited access to your life. It's your spouse or your partner and your kids usually. It's the people that at 3 a.m. can call you up and say, I'm stuck on the side of the road, can you come and get me? Or little people that sneak into your bed, or not so little people that sneak into your bed at 5 a.m. and no questions are asked. So they have unlimited access. My kid's always like, Mum, 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 Mum. Even my son, when he sends me a text, he just sends me one word, Mum, and then he'll send his message. Like, even in a text message, I'm still hearing, Mum. Yes, darling. So, yeah, and I'm just going to read a quote from a guy. I love the way he put this. So this is how he's then describing, not his inner circle, but his next circle out during COVID, and he lives in Victoria. There are 3 or 4 people that I leaned heavily on, and they on me, for advice, sanity checks, shoulder crying, going on long walks, emotional support, grieving, getting unstuck, relationship advice, and generally feeling like a normal and whole person. Those people, that make you feel normal, love it. Making you feel normal and a whole person in the midst of an unprecedentedly awful situation. We talked, cried, and raged about anything and everything. Now, for me, this inner group of circle, which I almost can see, so they've got easy access to you. So these are the people that I can rock around their house and just, I was in the area, and they might be busy, they might be going out, that's fine, but if they're not, then you go in and have a cup of tea, and they do the same thing to you. I was just in their area, just popping in. So they have quite easy access to you, or send you a text at, ridiculous hours, and you'll still answer it. They, frequent. I think I actually would prefer the word they're regular, because it's going to be different for everyone, right? If I contact you once a week, for me that's regular. That's frequent, right? But for some of you, I know it might be every day. They're in your life and in your home, and you're in their life and in their home. And now I've just put up about photos there because I just wanted to throw this out there. This is a way that we tried to explain to our kids that everybody in our previous 1,000 church were not our close friends and not people that we trusted our kids with. How do you explain that to kids? That these people that we say hello to and we chat with are not the people that we want necessarily coming and picking them up from school. So we sort of defined that this way, that we said if there's a photo of that person on display in our house, that's a person we trust with you guys. So anyone else got like photos all over your fridge? No, you definitely have. You have a really clean fridge, haven't you? So those people, because my daughter won't let me have photos, in portraits, yeah. So on the fridge they go. Yeah, so that's just a little aside. That's how we kind of helped kids understand some of those concentric circles, the people that you really trust with your kids, and then people who are just people that you know. Rightio, whatever else we've got. The fun times. So there's people that you just do fun times with. They might be people you go on holidays with, or you go to see a concert with, do some sort of market, event with. They're less frequent times, but they are there for major life events for you. They will rock up. They'll be there for the funerals, for the weddings, for the birth of your kids. They are still people that you value and are important to you, but it's just not that frequency. Does that make sense? Yep. And the outside circle is probably the only one I've labelled, for want of a better word, I've called it acquaintances. So they are still people that you spend time with. It might be a set time frame. You might just go, I'm just going to have a coffee with them, but it's short. It's less frequent, and it's often in those public spaces. It could be that you just see them at church, you just, see them at the footy club, that sort of thing, or your neighbour that you talk to over the fence or who lives down a few blocks. So they are still people that you value, who you spend time with, but it's just the reality that they are just not as close to you. And sometimes we feel bad about that some people will remain in that circle, but it's actually just that capacity that we have, 150, and we have to think about who we hold close to us. In not obviously my inner circle, but then my close friend circle, for me, they're all Christians, that we all have the same values. That's important to me because those people influence us a lot. And sometimes those people can have an influence on us that we don't really want. So it's something to think about. But in this outer circle, I have non-Christians. I have non-Christian neighbours who I'm friends with. I've been to their house, had coffee several times, but it's just a different level of relationship. And I want to say that, perhaps you've met someone you think, oh, this can be a possibly new friend. I just want to say don't rush through the circles. And I know that sounds like relationship advice. But that's also friendship advice. Because your capacity is limited, all of us, to say yes to something is to say no to something else. So if you're saying yes to a new friendship, you have to think about who that is then saying no to. Who is going to then get less of your time? So I'd say, yeah, great. Spend a little bit of time with them, do an event or something together, and then see how it went. Think about, did we seem to click? Was it one-sided or was it two-sided? Did it seem to have that reciprocation? And did you have things in common? And just sort of analyse it and just take it slowly. Again, I know that sounds like friendship advice. I think another important question is, did they respect your boundaries that you're just having a quick catch-up? Because you want to ask that question for every level. Have they respected my boundaries? Because that might be a reason for them to change to a different circle. So like I said, sometimes we feel uncomfortable about the fact that people are in circles or that they might stay in the outer circle. But did you know that actually that's what Jesus did? He didn't shy away from the fact that he spent different types of time with people. He had the three, Peter, James and John. He spent a lot of time with them, didn't he? Then he had the 12 disciples. Then he had the 120 disciples. And then he had the crowds. Definitely the three had more time with and access to Jesus, didn't they, than anyone else. And Jesus didn't apologise for that. All right, so we've kind of had a look at some of the reasons we might hold on to friends, the ones you want to hold on to and not fold, particularly those friends who become family, those really good friends we have in our life. So, reasons we might fold a relationship. Do you have any high-maintenance friends? Do you have any friends it might be just one way? Or maybe you and I are sometimes that friend as well. So why might we fold them? Well, it could be some simple reasons. The reason you've got together is over. Like I said, God might have a purpose and an intent, and that reason is over. Or it could be accomplished, or it's gone as far as it can go. It could be that a season has ended. You've moved further away, like I said with my friend from Balak. You changed jobs, you're not in the same job with them anymore. Or it could be that your personal season has changed, like you might move into having kids and then you have no time. And you just reevaluate all that you're involved in. Your season, you're not as available. So it could be some things like that. It could be that the things you had in common have finished. The sporting club you're part of, you might not play that sport anymore. Hopefully you still support that team. You might have finished the hobby. You might have changed the place you worship. We have a lot of people that we're still friends with from our previous church, but they're not in our lives every day. You know, when we see them, we're really glad to see them. I love having the catch up and, miss them when I see them. I think, oh, this is a special person. But again, the reality is that they're not in our everyday life. So it's often not malicious, but it is some of that reality. But some more serious reasons why you might fold a relationship or at least move them to a bit more outer circle might be for a disconnect of values. I'm going to have another drink, sorry. There's whispers on the front row. I've got no idea what time it is. Rightio, now I do. So I had a friend who I was very close with, and then they were doing some study at uni. And over time, they started to actually spend more time with their uni friends and less time with their church friends. And through that, then made some life choices that really weren't in line with a Christian walk. And it was really hard for me. I would see posts on Facebook and I would be heartbroken. And that would last for days. I'd feel teary and just so upset that for me, I just felt that they were walking away from God's best for them. And we just had this disconnect of values. And it's actually the only person I've unfriended on Facebook. One, because back then I didn't know that they could tell that you'd done that. But two, because it actually broke my heart to watch them walk further and further away from God. And it was tough. So sometimes, though, you just have that disconnect of values, and that might be a reason to fold a relationship, a friendship. It could be that it's become toxic. It could be that they, like I said before, are not respecting your boundaries. So a real friend will respect your boundaries. When your phone is off, when it's your day off, when you're on holidays, when it's family time, or even when you've simply got other plans and other priorities. And I feel really bad when, I must admit, when my friends say, they sort of say, oh, we know you're not as available because, you've got stuff to do at church now. And I feel really bad about that. But at the same time, I know they're trying to be a really good friend and give me space around that. And I think, no, I'm not too busy to see you, I'm not. But, sometimes they are very gracious in knowing that I have time, that I need other priorities. There are sometimes other priorities that I've got to focus on. It could also be that maybe they've become negative all the time. And that might not be folded, but you might just step back. And I know people have done that to me. There's been times when I've been the negative person. And that is actually healthy to respond like that, to say, in your present state, this is how much of you I can deal with. This is how much time I can allocate to you and still for my own sanity and emotional load. Because like I said, those circles, there's 150 people, and particularly that inner circle, who need a lot of you. And so you've got to really just weigh it up. And it's okay, I think, just to say, I'm here for you, but I'm here for you in this capacity. And then over time, I know some of those friendships, when I've been in a better mental health space, I can tell I've been drawn back in and we've spent more time together. And that is absolutely fine. That's actually healthy to realise what you can cope with and be available for them, but available in a way that you can maintain all the rest of your life and maintain that relationship. That could be, though, that a person has a negative influence on you, that they're a bad influence, and you really need to weigh up who is influencing who and how close you want that person. And that could be a reason to step back and back and back. And like I said, it can be a process. You can step back, see how they respond, and then go from there. It could also be that it's been one-sided over a long period of time. And then from that, I want to propose to you, if it has been one-sided over a long period of time, the question is it friendship or has it become ministry? And either way, do you still want to be involved in it? So just wanted to have a little look at that. Because like I said, none of us have unlimited energy, time or resource. And if you do, you need to be part of our pastoral care team. We'd love to hear from them, wouldn't we, Ash? Especially Elizabeth, he says. I did, for those of you who don't know, Rad and I are from Salisbury, but we love many of you here, know and love many of you here. Yeah. So, if it is ministry, I want to put to you that there are still some things to think about. That ministry has a purpose. What is the purpose that I'm catching up with this person or connecting with a person? What is that purpose? Time frame, what is the time frame of this? And that could be both time frames of the amount of time you do a catch up with them. It could be, right, I'm just going to do this amount of coffee time or so on. But also how long. Think about how long am I going to invest in this connection before then it gets reviewed. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Limits and boundaries. So it could be that your boundary is that you just catch up with them on the church day, or say for me it might be that I just catch up with them through office hours or when it is my church days. It could be that you just meet in a public space, like a cafe. Okay, so there could be those boundaries that you put in place. I had an experience with when I don't think I was a youth leader yet, but I was certainly involved with youth. And one of the young youth girls rang me and said, I'm going to come over your place, which she'd been over my place before. And I said, oh, actually, honey, today I've actually got to do some uni work, so it's not a good day for you to come over. Today I'm busy. And she said, well, I'm jumping on the bus and coming anyway, and hung up. Pre-mobile days, hung up, that was it. So I knew she was on the bus. I figured she was probably on the bus and coming. So then I had a choice, right? Because like little kids, what you, I guess, let them get away with, that becomes the new norm, right? So I was like, right, I've got to steel myself. And I actually, when she did, sure enough, arrive on the bus, knocked on my front door, and I didn't answer the front door because I did have uni work to do, and I needed to reinforce that boundary of this, we are stewards, the Bible says, of our resource. The resource that God has given us, time, our energy, our money, etc. We are the stewards of that. And so we make the decisions about how we best use that before God. So I didn't answer the door, drew the curtains, and did my best to sit at the table and study with her, knocking on the doors and the side windows. But it was really important for her to know those boundaries so that our friendship could continue to be healthy and not toxic. So that's an example of some of those. I've put a picture of a fig tree up there, kind of as part of a review. So you give it some time, like I said, maybe you give 6 months, and then you want to review, right? Because you need to say, has it worked, basically? Has this person grown? Has this person changed? Is there any fruit from this time that I'm investing? Up there is the picture of the fig tree. So Jesus sees a fig tree, and it's green, leafy, and he goes, "You beauty." Now, in the scripture, it does say it wasn't the time for figs, right? But when I read it, when it's green and it's leafy, they used to have these little knobs of fruit that they said that the peasants used to go and eat, and then when it has those, and then it goes on to have another crop of actual figs. So Jesus is like green, leafy, you beauty, going over to get some fruit. And if it doesn't have these, then apparently it doesn't go on to have figs that season. And he went over and it was green. It had had rain, right, or water. It had received nutrients, and yet it had produced nothing. So similarly, you want to look at someone who's received your time and your energy and your attention, and who's probably nice and green from all that, but is there any fruit? Has there been any change? Has there been any growth? Because God really is hot about fruit. And like I said, our capacity is limited, and you need to decide, is that energy better spent somewhere else, or whether you continue to say, okay, I'm going to give it another 6 months, 3 months, and then reassess. Really important. So if you've decided maybe this is not a friendship, maybe it is ministry, don't forget to review it. Does that make sense? Because sometimes it's like that tree. It had received all that nutrients and time and attention and had done nothing with it. I've two friends of mine, one was Pastor Joe and another good friend of mine, gave me some questions I found really helpful in determining some of these things. And the first question is this: what are they hungry for? What are they hungry for? Are they hungry for time, attention, help? I've had people who, great, you've helped me in this area, can you help me in this area? And now this area, and this area, and this, and this, and this. What are they hungry for? Or are they hungry for Jesus? Because you know what a church specialises in, right? We specialise in Jesus' help. And there are actually other organisations that can help with other needs. We specialise in Jesus. And I found that a really helpful, clarifying question. When I weigh up, oh, I feel bad, I've been spending time with this person. And then she'd say to me, well, are they hungry for Jesus? And I'd be like, now that you mention it, I actually don't think they are. I found that a really helpful question. Second question was from Pastor Joe. And as I already touched on, he would say, what have you decided to give? What have you decided to give? Because the Bible says don't give under compulsion, right? And sometimes we do things out of guilt. But an internal no, I don't really want to do this, nullifies an external yes, right? In essence, you're wasting your time doing it because you don't really want to do it. And the Bible says, determine in your heart what you have determined to give, and not the other way around. The other person doesn't get to decide because you are the steward of your resources. And like I said, some desperate people, if they find that you can help in one area, they're like, great, can you help in this area and this area? And then they are determining what the pull on your resources is. So I found that really helpful. I found it actually very freeing, because often as Christians we feel guilty. And people say you're nicer than Jesus. I actually don't know what that means, but I figure that's probably something along those lines. So, and if you're not sure, recently I had a situation and I felt I'd given and given and given, and I really wasn't sure where I was at with it. And I spoke to Matt and Leonie and I laid it out, and they kind of rolled their eyes at me, and I was like, okay, right, it's okay to stop. Okay, good. So if you're not sure, ask someone whose opinion that you really value, who can help you maybe get some clarity around that. All right, what else have we got? Oh, of course. Maybe the band can come as I just finish with the most important friendship you can ever have. And maybe you didn't know a friendship with Jesus was possible. And I really encourage you to come and speak to someone about that afterwards. Speak to one of the leaders or the person that brought you or that you know here. Come and find out about a friendship with Jesus, because it is the most important decision you could ever make, having that connection. So, what is your friendship with Jesus like? I'm just really impressed that I remembered the band this time. I've written it like massive on top of my notes. Oh my gosh. Is your friendship with Jesus healthy? Are you a needy friend? Is it a one-way barrage or a two-way conversation? Is Jesus in your inner circle? Is he the closest of friends? Does he have unlimited access? Oh, you feel like singing this, don't you? It's like with music behind you. Does he have easy access to your life? Does he have access to your ear? Does he have access to your heart? Does he have access to all areas of your life? Or is work off limits? Money off limits? Relationships off limits? Recreation off limits? If any of it's off limits, what circle is he really in? Do you only run to him in crisis? Think about where that circle is. My question to you is, why wouldn't you have God in your inner circle? This God that we've sang all morning about, he's so worthy of it all that every knee will bow before him. Every tongue confess that he is Lord. That all of heaven is singing, worthy is the Lamb. It's an awesome privilege that we get to have Jesus in our inner circle. And sometimes we hold on to things and we think, I'll just keep this from God, or I can't give this up. And what is in your hand you think is a treasure. But if you open your hands and let that thing go, that thing that you're keeping from God, and have your hand open, I tell you, God will fill your hands with real treasures, real treasures. The things that we think we can't let go of, they're not what we think they are. They are not. Because you want to have Jesus on your inner circle. And he will tell you some home truths, like my friends will say to me, is that the best decision? Have you prayed about that? Jesus will tell you some home truths, but he will stick closer than you can imagine through thick and thin. He sees you at your worst and loves you anyway. But also, he wants you to move on from being at your worst. And if you're holding him at arm's length because of that, he sees and knows anyway. You will never be as happy as when you have a close and intimate friendship with Jesus. You will never be as happy. It's what we were created for. It's what Jesus died for, to bring us right back to the throne room of God. And like you've probably heard me say before, what's a throne room? It's a room with a big chair, and he's inviting you to come right up to that chair, sit on his lap. That's what Jesus has made possible. Today, I'm calling you and me to reassess, where is Jesus in our circles? Is there anything that's off limits? Let God today be in your inner circle. Because when we're talking about friendships that you hold on to and fold, you want to hold on to God above all else. Today, reassess where your relationships are at, where people are in these circles. Are you happy with where they are? Or is someone else missing out who could have more of your resource? But most importantly, assess your friendship with God today and come ever closer. James says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. He's just waiting for that invitation. Thanks, band.
your voice as your words sink into me, as your love pours all over my expectant and ravenous heart. Who would I be without you? I'd be so lost, I'd be so lost. All I have is in you. You hold my heart, you hold my heart. Let your truth redefine me, who you are. Shape and form me, what you give is good, and I won't lack a thing. So I'll stay